a lot of people in Kentucky collect oil lamps or kerosene lamps. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that they are so plentiful here. We were on the shipping route for lamps coming out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And because of that, there's lots and lots of different lamps out there. Now, if you're going to be collecting lamps, it's more important that the lamps are not drilled. And a lot of people will take an antique lamp like this, which was out of Pittsburgh. It probably dated originally to about the 1870s. And what happened was, in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, people thought these made great table lamps in the living room and that sort of thing. And so, at that time, there was no screw-in type of electrical burner. So what they did is they drilled a hole through the front of the lamp into the base of the lamp and put the wire through it. Because some of them have little feet, the wires would come out and they wouldn't wobble. Now, if this had not been drilled, it probably is worth, just by itself, not with any kind of shade, but just with itself, probably in the price range of $145, $165. With it being drilled, about $45 really hurts the value. Now, in the 1930s, you will see ones that have been drilled or they were made new in the 1930s. And this is a typical type of one that you see, the shape. And it has the little grape motif on it. A lot of times you'll see this in cranberry. Now, what happens is they'll come loose from their little couplet here between the font and the base, and they need to plaster it in there. We can see that the plaster is filling in a little hole in the middle there, which tells me that somewhere along the line this was drilled. And if we look in the bottom, we can see where the screw is up inside of the lamp base. That tells me that probably it went all the way through. So this too is a lamp that is damaged. It's one that you don't want to pay full price. This is part of a pair, and the pair is about $150, $160. Good value if you want to have just a lamp for the living room. You'd pay that for a modern lamp. This has enough age on it that it looks really old. You put a cloth shade on it. Now, originally, a lot of the shades were these little petticoat shades, and they're fluted like this, and they just rest it on the chimney. Now, this one, if we look at it, we see that it too has been drilled, and they've drilled down through it. What is bad is the fact that this is a modern screw-in burner, and there was necessarily no reason for drilling the lamp, because that would have went off the side here. This was a really good lamp, about 1879, 1880, again made in Pittsburgh, but somebody has drilled that and just ruined the value of the lamp. If it hadn't been drilled, it probably was in about the $165, $175 range, because it has the nice painting on it on both sides. It has the nice enameling and everything. As it sits there, $45 or $35, not counting the petticoat. These petticoats, I tend to get about $25 or $30 for these, depending how old they are. they have been reproduced, and so because of that, you want to look at them really close. Also, whenever you're buying them, go around the ruffle and make sure there's no chips on the ruffle. Now, here we have a little lamp that is, the pattern is called Peanut. And it was a very popular pattern. It came in about 7 different sizes, from a miniature lamp up to a big sewing lamp. Now, this is properly done. Although this is not an antique burner on it, we have a burner that screws in, and it's not electrified. These lamps never had any kind of shades on them other than a chimney. And a lot of times these were for like walking through the house and that sort of thing. That's why they didn't have a lot of oil space. Now, one of the popular things to collect are finger lamps. And this is a finger lamp. And it was for carrying. It too has the proper, this is what you want to screw into a lamp, that if you want to electrify it, so you don't ruin the value of the lamp. If we look at it, we notice that it's slightly lavender. The lavender tells us that it's been in the sunlight for a very long time, and hence it's an old finger lamp. Now, if you have one that has a handle on both sides, those were called friendship lamps, and they could be passed from one person to the other. The other thing we find here is this little miniature lamp. Now, miniature lamps, there are hundreds of different patterns and everything, and you want to look at them really, really close. You want to take and remove the burner and look in there to see if there is new plaster in there. It might tell you that, and this one is a miniature lamp. A lot of times, because the company made both a salt and pepper and miniature lamp, some people will take the salt and peppers and plaster a collar on it and call it a miniature lamp. Sometimes they just do not look right as a miniature lamp. Now, one thing I do want to say are chimneys. Chimneys do not affect the value of the lamp. It's always nice if the original chimneys are there, but if they are not there, don't worry about it. Here we have a really nice early chimney. And you say, how can you tell that that's an early chimney? One thing is the thinness of it, very, very thin. The other thing is the crimping at the top. Very diminutive little crimps on it. This shade probably dates from the 1880s, 1890s, and so it's a good little shade. These other two, this is a brand new shade. It's very heavy, it's very thick. This one probably dates from the teen years, has nice swirls in it. Anytime you see the swirls, that's kind of a plus on it. If you're going to be collecting lamps, there's all types of lamp books out there. There's ones on miniature lamps, there's one on kerosene lamps, there's one on Hemingway lamps. Hemingway was a glass company that made a lot of the telegraph and telephone insulators. And before they started doing that, they made lamps. You can find lamps all over the place in antique shops and flea markets and everything, and you can just about pay whatever you want for them. They're fairly cheap. They're a high price item that's very, very cheap. Happy hunting on your lamps.